Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Alex. Today we are going to talk about light. We're going to discuss ways that light, natural light that is, can benefit your health. We'll talk about blue light and the benefits of natural light in the workplace, as well as laser therapies. So first up, we are going to discuss natural light. As we have talked about in the past briefly, natural light is really beneficial to your health, especially when it comes to getting vitamin D into your life and also in just making sure that you can perk up your mood or sleep well. So we're going to talk about that right now. As a general rule, most folks would prefer to have some warmth of the sun rather than that buzz and the flare of fluorescent bulbs. And a recent study by Harvard Business Review confirms that natural light means a lot to the average person. They did a future workplaces study and found that over 1,600 employees ranked access to natural light and views of the outdoors as their number one desire for a workplace environment. That is what was most important to them for their workplace environment. That is above even other perks like fitness centers and on-site childcare. So I also can totally believe that, because when I used to work in a call center, as I've discussed with y'all in the past, I would always sit facing the window because I wanted to make sure that I could see as time was passing as well. That is something that light was helpful for me in gauging the passing of time. Also, just seeing what the weather was like outside and that things were perhaps different and changing, even as I was undergoing the exact same conversations, more or less, over and over each day. In that way, light and the weather that was associated with it were very beneficial to my mental health, even if I was not close enough to the window to actually get any of those natural rays myself. Instead, I would eat my lunch outside. We didn't have any picnic tables. I would just sit on the ground outside of the door in the parking lot, but it was so worth it, and it helped me feel rejuvenated after a frustrating morning of just being yelled at for things outside of my control all the time. So the sun was helpful in boosting my mood and my mental health and reminding me that things did change outside of my own little bubble. There are a ton of benefits for natural light, for your health and for your wellness. First up, it can really boost your vitamin D. So your skin absorbs vitamin D when it's exposed to sunlight, and that's really important for preventing bone loss, reducing your risk of heart disease, diminishing weight gain, and also helping you prevent the risk of various cancers. So sunlight can be super important in that manner, especially as we get older and our bones tend to become weaker, especially if you are an over-rehaver. So keep that in mind too. The sun is really important for giving us that sunshine vitamin, vitamin D. And it doesn't matter whether you get your sunlight indoors or outside. And I can totally vouch for that. I have an older car. It's a 1995 model, and I absolutely love it. At this point, it's old enough to vote and is going to actually be considered a classic car anytime now. And my point for that is that my car does not have tinted windows. That is the last upgrade I would ever get around to making to her. She's my project car and I love her very much. But she has other things that I need to attend to first. So whenever I go driving down the road, if I have my arm up on the window area, even if the window is closed, I will get a sunburn just on that left arm. Even though it's through a window, and it works the same way in your home. So even if you are in your home reading by an open window, or if you are in the workplace with an office or a cubicle that has a window or real estate near the window, it can be just as important for you as being outside. Although if your office has a picnic table or an opportunity to go outside for lunch, especially as many of us are still working at home right now, you should totally take it and get that fresh air too. Sunlight can also ward off seasonal depression. So it's really important for us to get as much of that natural light as possible to help out with any of those mood changes. For about 6% of our population, fall tends to start promoting the feeling of serious depression, known as seasonal affective disorder. And that's just major depressive disorder with seasonal patterns. So it fluctuates based on the seasonality. And as we discussed in our episode, Sad and Stress in Lockdown, these types of depression that go ahead and cycle seasonally can cycle in different seasonal patterns, and they can also have different symptoms when they occur too. So if you're interested in learning more about seasonal affective disorder or major depressive disorder with those seasonal patterns, go ahead and check out that episode too. 14% of people also experience the winter blues. So getting that sunlight even through the window while you're cozied up next to the fireplace in your nice warm home in the winter can also be very helpful. Light also improves sleep. Mental health and sleep are partners, you guys, and it's not surprising that natural light can have a large impact on both of those. There was a small study in 2014 of office workers, and they found that the more natural light they were exposed to in the workplace, the better they were able to sleep. Getting natural light also reduces health risks that may be associated with fluorescent lighting. If you have more natural light, so if you're opening your windows or your blinds, or your curtains rather, instead of using those fluorescent bulbs, then it will mean less time you're exposed to those fluorescent bulbs. Fluorescent lamps that are compact in nature are generally recognized as being safe, but for some folks, it can also elicit an elevated stress response. And as we have learned in the past few months discussing stress and all of the different systems of the body, that can be really bad for you in the long term. Indeed, we even discussed epigenetics this past week and found that exposure to stress in your environment can change which of your genes are turned on and off, which of them are expressed, including those related to stress, and you can have your stress response impaired in this manner. Compact fluorescent light bulbs as your main source of light each day could increase your risk for migraines and eye strain. And boy, let me tell you, when I read that, you guys, a lot of things started making sense. I have been having headaches increasingly lately. I am on medication for migraines, and that makes a lot of sense as I have been spending an inordinate amount of time indoors lately, even for me. Additionally, if your compact fluorescent light bulbs are broken, they can emit amounts of mercury that may be dangerous. So make sure that you keep those out of reach of kids and pets as well. We're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some ways to get natural light. Stay tuned.
Are you looking to learn more about the latest trends from the fitness world? Are you confused by all of the different trends that are out there? The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place for you. The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place to come for people of all skill and interest levels. Join us as we explore the latest trends in the fitness world. Does that new exercise really work? Should I try yoga? Whatever your question, chances are good you'll find an answer on the GSMC Fitness Podcast.
Discussing some of the ways that natural light can impact our lives, specifically as it relates to our health and wellness. Now we're going to discuss some ways we can get added light in our lives. Even if you're not able to go outside, you can do a little bit to help let the sunshine in. First up, you can get rid of your curtains. I don't have any curtains in my home. Well, that's not true. I bought some curtains, but they are folded up in the linen closet and I have not used them. They are pretty to look at, but I want that natural sunlight, you guys. So if you have heavy curtains, that is a great way to let more sun into your life by removing them or keeping them open. It also helps the sun to wake you up if your circadian rhythm is on track with it. However, if you are doing shift work or any other type of work that requires you to work different hours from what the sun would really like, or your circadian rhythm is just not down with the sun, that's totally okay. Go ahead and get you those blackout curtains for your bedroom. But when you're out and about in the rest of your home, maybe get you a sun lamp or also have those other curtains open so that you can reboot that waking cycle or artificially help improve the one that you have for your night shifts. If you're worried about how the sun could impact your skin while you sleep, you can also keep your blinds raised throughout the day and then pull them shut at night, or however it is based on your sleep cycle. You can also get reflective colors for your walls. White is a highly reflective color for reflecting light, but you don't have to go with just a stark white light to lighten things up. You can also do a very light color of paint on your walls, like a very pale yellow, or perhaps even, as most apartment complexes seem to go for nowadays, that very pale tannish color. It has just enough pigment to make you feel that it's not too stark while also keeping your room very light. It is up to you. If you get an eggshell wash, it can also impact your brightness level by bringing it up a bit. A lot of apartments use that flat paint because flat paint is easier to cover up any blemishes with. But when you go into your bathrooms, typically you'll see that glossier finish, which is generally at least an eggshell wash. And that is partly because of moisture content and also because they typically don't have windows in there. I love a bathroom with windows, but a lot of apartment complexes just don't bother in there. And so you end up with this higher gloss paint to help reflect that light some more. You can do whatever you like though. It's your home if you are getting to paint it yourself. Some apartment complexes will also let you paint your apartment yourself, provided that you either run it by them or repaint it prior to move out. Granted, I've never really bothered with that. I go ahead and ask them for paint at the front office to do the repairs myself, if any are warranted, but I do not fully repaint my apartment. I figure I'm not going to be there long enough to really warrant making it look like home for me. But I know that there are also a lot of folks, especially who have YouTube channels, who just love moving into a new apartment, making it feel like their space by totally redecorating, even with wallpaper and everything, and then removing it when they move out. So you do you. It is a boost to your wellness and your mental health to do this, and it can be really beneficial to you in other ways beyond just promoting more light. Remember that the largest source of darkness in your house may be your floor. A lot of floors tend to be darker colors because, again, that tends to more easily hide the blemishes related to dirt and any spills that you may make, and so on. But getting a light-colored rug can help brighten up your room while also still protecting that carpet or hardwood underneath. So try that out. You can also really open up a room with mirrors. Mirrors are a great way to make the room look larger, and as we learned in the movie The Mummy, to also bounce light around the room. So you can reflect sunlight from your windows to mirrors or one more. It's up to you. And just get more brightness in your walls. And also, if you have a large mirror, really make a smaller space seem larger than it may actually be. Talking to you, New Yorkers, and also anyone who lives in a college dorm. So if you want to choose a mirror, how big should you go? Well, that really just depends on how large you're liking the space to be, how much you're trying to maximize your light versus your sense of space. You can use multiple mirrors, or you can use one large mirror. Or if you really just want that one small one, a nice decorative one, you can go for that too. It just depends on what you're actually working with and what your goals are. You can also use metallic objects in addition to mirrors to help reflect the sun's rays. Just make sure that they're not near anything that is going to potentially catch fire, and make sure that you are checking these materials to be sure that they are not getting too much heat from the sun or, otherwise causing any issues with flammability. Safety first. You can also decorate your mirror with metallic sheens. So some folks really love brass or silver. I am more of a rose gold type person, or like a very muted gold. I don't like the hyper yellow golds. But that's just me. You can make this look however you want it to look. Go wild. I like copper too. It really just depends on what you specifically are going for with your aesthetic. It's about brightening up your day and your mental health. You can also just try to go outside whenever you can. Of course, a lot of times we're limited by that, particularly if we are in areas that are prone to excessive precipitation or just generally cloudy days, or it's really cold out, or we're on shift work. It really has a lot of different factors that can impact how much sun we get. But you want to exercise outdoors if you can, or if your gym has windows, go ahead and try that out. Sometimes I just go for a walk in the park, and sometimes it's almost speed walking, where it's getting to the point that I'm going so fast it would be more comfortable to jog than it would be to walk. that's really what we're going for with that speed walking. But regardless, I like to just go for a walk in the park. I get fresh air. There's a lot of deer in this local park too that get crazy close to you because they are not afraid in San Antonio. And you can also really improve your sense of awe and get fresh air and get sunlight, all while you're also getting exercise. Now, I can't really jog on that material because it is a concrete path and that does hurt my knee. So speed walking is about the best I can do in that environment. But I think the overall net win is definitely worth it. Getting that vitamin D, and it's just improving my mood all around because I can't stay sad while I'm walking with deer. It's a really great day. And there are cardinals and squirrels and some great trees to climb. Also, skipping isn't just for kids, y'all. If you feel it in your heart to go ahead and skip through the woods or down the path you're on or the park or the road or the sidewalk, go for it. What are people going to do? Look at you like you're crazy? Perhaps. That's very true. People might look at you like you're off your rocker, but that's okay. As we learn in Alice in Wonderland, the Mad Hatter asks, "Have I gone mad?" And Alice says, "You're entirely bonkers, but I'll tell you a secret. All the best people are." It's okay if people think we're weird. We are just going to be so comfortably ourselves, y'all, that everyone around us is comfortable being themselves too. We're going to go on another break. And when we come back, we're going to talk some more about ways to improve your natural sunlight absorption and also some of the detriments of blue light. Stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were discussing some ways to supplement your natural sunlight in your life, whether that be going for a walk while also cultivating awe and maybe seeing some wildlife and getting some fresh air and exercise along with that vitamin D. Y'all know I am super pro efficiency, so that just makes my little Capricorn heart sing. I'm very excited to go for a walk and get all of those things done all at once. And overall, that just also improves my mood and therefore also my general health and wellness. So in addition to working out outdoors or by the window at your gym, you can also supplement your vitamin D by walking your pets or just spending time on the patio with them. My cat loves being out on the patio, and whenever we have a balcony in our apartments, we go ahead and spend time out on the patio/balcony. Just me and her, and we have camping chairs for that. I also like to do woodworking on my balcony, so I will take some giant cardboard boxes from previous purchases and lay those down, so I don't get charged for staining the sidewalk of my balcony, the concrete of it, the cement, y'all know what I mean. And then we go ahead and just sand it down. The cat kind of tries to help. She's not super helpful with it, But, she likes to feel important, so it's okay. I let her come join me with it. But mostly she likes to just lay in the camping chair while I'm doing that. And then I'll sit there with her since I'm already sweaty. It doesn't matter in this Texas heat. And sit in the camping chair and read a book with her or do some work on my computer. It doesn't really matter. It's just getting out there and it's both spending some quality time with Little Bear as well as getting some time in the sun. Worldwide, it is estimated that 1 billion people are vitamin D deficient, even in sunny parts of their countries. So if you suspect that your vitamin D levels have dropped below where they should be, ask your doctor about supplementation and see whether that might be right for you. Although I am a huge proponent of getting your vitamins and minerals from your food and the sun primarily, I am also on vitamin D supplements. And that is because when I went to my doctor for my well check, they told me that I was severely vitamin D deficient. And that's because I have been working at home for 7 years and I overwork, and all of my hobbies and my work and my volunteer work are all online. My poor computer can't really handle being out in the sun, in direct sunlight that is, or in a lot of the Texas heat. So I end up spending a lot of time indoors. And that is problematic for my body. So I am also on vitamin D supplements, but I also went out the other day and read a book in the sunlight for a little bit until a Karen called the apartment complex management to let them know that I was out there reading a book. I don't understand it either, but there it is. I was wearing my mask and everything, but this Karen did not like it, and so she called the apartment managers on me. The managers were very nice though, you guys, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let this damage my calm. Karen cannot steal my peace today, you guys. I'm not going to let her ruin my day. If you feel the need to call the authorities on someone who is just sitting there minding their own business, you're probably a deeply unhappy person. Anyway, remember there is a deep sense of peace to be found from minding our own business when people are not actually hurting us. It is something that helps to retrain your brain, as we discussed in episodes about anger. And when you are slower to anger, you're overall more happy. Really, you guys, it is true. Science has studied it. You can reprogram the neural pathways in your brain to be happier over time by making sure that when you would normally be quick to anger, and that's your first go-to, is you're just super angry very suddenly. If you start consciously trying to tamp that down or temper your temper, then it can be super beneficial for not just your wellness and your mental health and your emotional well-being, but also your social well-being, as more people are going to be more comfortable spending time with you and may even seek to spend more time with you. You may also experience physical health benefits, such as an improvement in your blood pressure, and so on and so forth. So that's just a pro tip side note, as sunlight can also boost your mood and therefore improve your temperament. But if you don't have access to being out in the sun, you can also try a light therapy lamp. As we discussed in our episode about seasonal affective disorder, light therapy has been proven to be really beneficial for treating the symptoms associated with SAD and just in improving your mood overall. Some reports state that it's at least as effective as antidepressants for alleviating SAD. And if you'd like to learn more about that, check out that episode on SAD and stress in lockdown. As lockdown, or this era of social distancing, as we all work at home more, spend more time in the home, has possibly resulted in an artificial sense of seasonal affective disorder. just because we were not exposed to as much sunlight in the same way that seasonal changes can deprive us of the sunlight. So this extra bright light therapy lamp is something you can get in a wide range of sizes, a wide range of prices, and even the mainstream stores carry them now. Although you can likely also find them online or speak with your doctor about them. Now, if you feel that you're having trouble with your mental health and that the lack of natural light is really playing into that, bring it up with your boss. Bring it up with your coworkers if you're not comfortable going directly to your boss. Talk to somebody you trust about it first. Speak with your teachers about maybe having the blinds open during class. There might be an easy solution to help you get more of your vitamin D. Perhaps you could just move your desk closer to a window. It's important to ask, because if you don't ask, then the answer is always going to be a no. Your needs are important, and it's important to communicate those to the folks around you as well. And if you're worried that your boss won't listen to just one of you, then going together as a few people or having just the support of your colleagues can really help, even if that's just via an email or an in-person conversation. Getting more natural light can't solve all of our problems, but it could improve your mood enough to make a difference. We're going to go on another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about that blue light. Stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Some ways to get more sunlight into your life, whether that be communicating your needs to the folks around you in school or home or in the workplace, or trying therapy lamps, or taking vitamin D supplements if your doctor feels that that's appropriate for you, as mine did for me. There are a wide range of options. Now we're going to talk about a different type of light. We're going to talk about blue light. It can have an effect on your sleep, and it can really impact your circadian rhythm. It is environmentally friendly though, but it can potentially also cause disease. Before artificial lighting, sunlight was our major source of lighting, and we tended to spend our evenings in relative darkness or by candle or lantern light, depending on the electricity available in your area. But now a lot of the world is illuminated all the time. New York is referred to as being the city that never sleeps, and Las Vegas is very similar in that regard. There are bright lights in the big cities, and they are on almost all the time. So spending all that time in the light is just something that is normal for us now. And we don't really tend to notice a big difference consciously between artificial light, like the bulbs in our homes, and being outside, except for the part in which I leave my home or my office and throw up a hand against the glare of the sun and go, "Wow, that's bright." or ouch, because it is that bright. There is a difference that we do tend to notice, but we don't really pay attention to it. Those are two different things. So we may be really harming ourselves by not getting enough of that natural light, but also in getting that blue light from our screens. At night, light can really throw a wrench into our biological clock and really mess up our sleep. They think that it now may also be a contributory cause of cancer or diabetes, obesity, and heart disease. There has been some research on that over the years that suggests that this may be a contributing factor. So what is this blue light we're talking about? Well, it is the blue wavelength. So there are different colors of lights. If you grew up in the 90s like I did, you remember the craze in a lot of those stores in the mall with those red lights that you could put in your room and black lights and color changing bulbs. Indeed, I am still fascinated by it. I have some strip lights that I got online for like $17, and they are remote controlled for like, I don't know, 20 different colors, probably more than that. And they can also fade or blink or just stay solid and stuff like that. And I have all kinds of other lights in my room, including a lava lamp. Hey, I'm a child of the 90s. I did not have these things when I was a kid, so I'm having them as an adult. Live your best life. And that can include having a second childhood or just bringing back those childish things that we put away as we emerged into adulthood and convinced ourselves that we had to be absolutely serious all of the time. We don't. There are definitely times in which we should be serious, but putting away the things that bring us joy just because we think that we ought to is not necessarily mentally healthy over time. I put away those things for a long time, thinking that my love of comic books and video games were somehow childish and that people wouldn't respect me as an adult if I was still really into those things. And it took me a long time to figure out that that's not true. So embrace those things. It's good for your health and your wellness. Get out your old cartoon t-shirts, you guys. Wear them proudly. They don't have to be weekend t-shirts. Wearing them to work with a blazer, depending on your office environment, can also still really work in many aspects, especially in the realm of tech. But also just wear them out of the house. It's something you love, and chances are you may come across someone who also loves it as much as you do, and you can have a new experience with a stranger over it. Remember, strangers are friends we have not met yet. So go ahead and give it a shot, you guys. Whether that is wearing those old t-shirts that you love, playing those video games, or, breaking out those lights. Get out that lava lamp. Be careful with the lava lamps. I'm a little concerned about how warm mine gets, but I just don't leave it on while I'm not next to it. And I don't leave it on overnight or anything. But you get where I'm coming from. Just be attentive and love the things that bring you joy. So, in my case, I have a lot of these lights, but I don't keep them on at night. I also tend to turn my lights to a different color spectrum towards the evening, closer to orange for when I'm trying to go to sleep, or red. I'm not entirely sure how effective that's supposed to be. I haven't done the research for that. But I do know that a lot of the programs for your computers, like Flux, can go ahead and start turning your computer screen to more of an orange color as the night progresses to filter out some of that blue light. I also have those orange glasses that look like your dad's glasses, his sunglasses from the 90s probably, when the orange tint was super in. You guys know the shape I'm talking about, and they also perhaps doubled as being like really cool glasses for mowing the lawn. Yeah, I have those. I got those dad sunglasses, and sometimes I do wear those too if I'm playing video games or something in which I am trying to wind down a few hours before bed. I know I know my brain is still active. It's not necessarily doing the same thing, but I am filtering out some of that blue light from the TV screen, which I don't think that I can turn to that orange color. But a lot of smartphones also nowadays go ahead and offer that option too. And you can set it on a timer and you can suspend that timer to help you start getting used to going to sleep. I like to also turn on the orange or the red lights around my bed really low while I am getting ready for bed because it just is comforting for me and it feels like the warmth of the back of my eyelids. So I leave those on for a little bit. I transition from having the overhead lights on to having those orange and red lights in the evening. And then when I am ready to go ahead and turn in for the night, then I turn those off a little bit before then and just lay down. It sounds weird perhaps, but it works very well for me. And it was fairly inexpensive to do that as well. So this blue light is in the blue wavelength though. And it's really helpful while we're awake during the daylight hours, if we are daylight workers, because it can help improve our attention and reaction time and our mood, but it can be very disruptive at night. And with all of the screens in our lives nowadays, it can be a lot of blue wavelength exposure, as well as energy efficient lighting. It's environmentally friendly, but it tends to be blue, and that can really mess with our brains and our moods after the sun goes down. We're going to go on another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some more about light and sleep. Stay tuned.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were discussing how blue light impacts our lives and some ways that we can filter it out. Now we're going to talk about light and sleep. So one thing I do want to clarify is that everyone's circadian rhythm is slightly different. The average length is 24 1/4 hours, but that means that not everyone's circadian rhythm is going to be precisely the same. And so that's why I've been saying whatever works for you, or if your circadian rhythm is not in tune with the sun, because some people's aren't entirely in tune that way. My roommate only needs about 6 or 7 hours of sleep. I need 9. I need a lot of sleep, and getting enough sleep is really important for how I feel for the day. If I don't get enough sleep, I can start my day with a headache and all kinds of other problems, and it just makes me feel downright icky. So I have to prioritize my sleep. And that's just because I have a different circadian rhythm than my roommate does. He's totally fine and up and around and has plenty of energy the rest of the day, but not me if I only get 6 or 7 hours of sleep. So everyone's a little bit different. If people stay up late, their circadian rhythm tends to be a little bit longer, while folks who are able to get up super early in the morning and you just wake up chipper and happy and you're an early bird, then theirs tend to be a little bit shorter than 24 hours. So mine is likely just quite a bit longer than 24 hours. I get my second wind at about 9 o'clock at night when I am working on projects. It is hard for me to be motivated super early in the morning typically, but I have found a way to adapt and adjust to life that everyone else seems to be prioritizing as being, the morning routine. A lot of the world is on this morning routine, and so I can adapt and overcome, but it is not my favorite. I do really love working shifts like 10 to 7s. I love mid shifts, you guys, and some evening shifts too. But if I'm going to have to work an AM shift, I like to go ahead and start it by just going to sleep earlier at night. And I don't necessarily love doing that, but if you get enough of practice into doing it and you're steady with your routine, it can be done. Sleep experts recommend that you get between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night. And also, if you're trying to change your sleep cycle, to go ahead and back it up by about 15 minutes per night. You don't want to try to go directly to an hour all at once, because that is going to be really rough on your circadian rhythm. So remember, your body has its own rhythm, and that may be quite different from that of the sun. Not usually expansively different, but there are definitely outliers in the data as well. So just do your best and listen to your body, and talk to your doctor if you feel that your circadian rhythm may be way off and that it may be impacting your life. There was a study in 1981, though, that showed that daylight kept a person's circadian rhythm, that internal biological clock, aligned with the environment. So that is also something to consider. So what we really are asking is this light exposure at night bad? Well, maybe. There are some studies that are suggesting there's a link between exposure to light at night, including things like working the night shift, to some types of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. So that is a correlation. It is not causation. And we've discussed that in the past. So I'll just briefly recap that. It's saying that there is a link, that folks who work at night tend to also have a higher risk of cancer or diabetes or heart disease or obesity. But that doesn't mean that it caused that. Perhaps all of these people also have some type of diet that is similar, or maybe a gene, and that could be causative. Or in the correlational way, maybe each of these folks really likes Star Wars. That is not going to mean that Star Wars is causing them to have these disorders, or that loving Star Wars makes you work at night. It just means that they're correlated. For whatever reason, those factors just seem to co-vary. A lot of times things that correlate are not causative in nature. So this is not proof that nighttime light exposure causes those conditions, nor why nighttime light could be detrimental to our health. We do know, though, that exposure to light can suppress the secretion of melatonin. Melatonin is that sleep hormone, y'all. It really has a strong impact on our circadian rhythms, and they've done some research that suggests that lower melatonin levels may be a contributing factor to the association between cancer and light when it comes to light at night. So they also performed a study at Harvard, and they found that there's a possible connection to diabetes and possibly obesity and light. And it was a small sample size, so there were only 10 people in this study. But the researchers put 10 people on a schedule that shifted the timing of their circadian rhythms on a gradual scale. So as they did this, the blood sugar levels increased, and then they ended up being pre-diabetic, and their levels of leptin also went down. So leptin is that hormone in your body that helps you to feel full after a meal. So if you have lower levels of leptin, you're going to think that you're still hungry, even when your body may technically have enough nutrients and enough sustenance. So this is happening as their circadian rhythms are shifting by changing their bedtimes, more or less. So your bedtime can have an impact on your blood sugar levels, the levels of hormones in your body, and also your risk of diabetes and obesity. So dim light can also mess up your circadian rhythm and interfere with the secretion of melatonin. They say that 8 lux, and that is a level of brightness that is brighter than most table lamps, about twice as bright as a night light, has an effect. And that light at night is partly why a lot of folks can't get enough sleep. So they've linked short sleep to increased risks for depression, diabetes, and cardiovascular problems as well. So this can be problematic, and perhaps having a night light might allay your child's fears, but not necessarily be good for their circadian rhythms and their overall health. Also, leaving the television on at night is not great for you. I've started listening to podcasts instead to help me fall asleep at night because I like to have a little bit of background noise. But I'm trying to also wean myself off of that to where I'm just falling asleep listening to nothing. I've been listening to music as I've fallen asleep since I was a small child, but that is not necessarily the best for getting my brain waves to quieten down. So we are going to try this new approach as we go forward, and you guys are also welcome to try it with me. I started by just turning off my laptop screen at night, and I would still be listening to whatever was on and playing in the background at a lowered level. And now I've just gotten to the point in which I'm listening to some podcasts, folks who have really soothing voices. For me, it's not so much about what they're saying, because I'm really trying to just make it into background noise. I just want to hear a soothing voice so that I can be lulled to sleep. And that's been working really well for me so far. So if you'd like to try it with me, I'd love to hear how it turns out for y'all too on our Twitter or Instagram or our Facebook. We're going to go on another break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss some ways you can protect yourself from blue light at night, as well as the LED blue light exposure in general. Stay tuned.
GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast gives you advice on everything from hair to fashion to skincare products. We'll talk about the latest trends in makeup, hairstyles, and anti-aging remedies. And we'll cover all of the newest fashion trends. If you have an interest in or questions about the beauty trends that might work best for you, the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were discussing blue light, as well as how light can affect us with nighttime exposure. They found some correlations, not necessarily causations, between cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and obesity, and nighttime light exposure, such as is the case in folks who work the night shift. So now we're going to talk about some of the effects of blue light and sleep. We found over the years that light of any sort can suppress the melatonin secretion that impacts our circadian rhythms and helps us to get that good sleep. So blue light at night, though, is more powerful than other types of light. Over the years, several researchers have conducted experiments to compare the effects of being exposed to blue light for 6.5 hours with the exposure of green light of a comparable brightness for this similar amount of time. So this blue light suppressed melatonin for twice as long as the green light did. And it also messed with the circadian rhythms and shifted them by twice as much. So if your circadian rhythm was shifted for 2 hours by green light exposure, then your circadian rhythm was shifted by 4 hours when you were exposed to blue light. So in other studies, researchers have compared the melatonin levels of folks who were exposed to bright indoor lights, but were wearing those blue light blocking goggles, like my orange dad sunglasses. And they compared these folks to folks who were exposed to regular dim light without wearing goggles. So the blue light blocking goggles folks had a bright indoor light, and the other folks who did not have goggles had a regular dim light. And they found that the levels of the hormones were about the same in those two groups. And they suggest that this means that the blue light is actually a really powerful suppressor of melatonin because those light levels were very different. It also suggests that folks who do shift work and people who are night owls like yours truly could perhaps do better with their sleep if they wore those blue light blocking goggles. Which reminds me, I need to dig those out. I've been packing this week, but I do need to find those so that I can also get some rest while I'm trying to move. If you're wanting to find some of these sunglasses, more or less, you can definitely wear them indoors. It's a little bit jarring at first how orange it makes everything, but it is something that you can gradually get used to over time, especially if you use Flux on your computer. I believe it's called Flux. My roommate uses that one. Or if you use that orange filter on your phone, it can be super beneficial for you. So you can get these pretty inexpensively. They're orange tinted, and they also block out other colors though. So you should not really be using them indoors at night all the time. You want to make sure that you're getting the kind that block only blue light, but those can cost up to $80. So if you're going to be wearing them at night, then you're going to want the ones that block only blue light, so the more expensive pair. But if you're just wearing them throughout the day with your shift work and everything, then you can go ahead and use the regular inexpensive ones. I don't think that mine were that expensive, and they're just really good at blocking blue light. So about this blue light, LED blue light exposure may have these adverse health effects as we discussed today, but people tend to really love them because they're energy efficient and they're good for the environment. So on the one hand, we're having to weigh how much our personal health is worth, and on the other, how our environmental concerns really measure out in comparison. So that can be kind of difficult. I think that the orange sunglasses are a good move for that, as well as that orange lighting on your phone and your computer screen to help filter out that blue light. So you can have those more energy efficient bulbs, but also still be protecting yourself. Those LED lights and those really curly, compact fluorescent light bulbs are more energy efficient than the old school incandescent light bulbs that we had when I was a kid. But they also produce more blue light, y'all. You can't really change how fluorescent light affects you because it's also physics. But the coatings inside the bulb can be produced to have a warmer, less blue light. So sometimes they'll change the coating inside of those lights. LED lights are more energy efficient than fluorescent lights though, and they also produce a lot of light in that blue spectrum. So some of the light researchers out there have found that ordinary incandescent lights produce some blue light, but it is less than most fluorescent light bulbs out there. So TLDR, how do you protect yourself from blue light at night? It looks like I was right on track, y'all, because the researchers have recommended that you should use dim red lights for night lights. So they're not saying that your munchkins or you can't have a night light, just use the dim red lights. Because red light has the least ability to move your circadian rhythm in such a way that your melatonin production is impaired. So you want to make sure that you're going with those red ones. So the orange sunglasses are filtering out that blue light, and the red light itself is your best option for night lights. Also, I just really enjoy it, and it looks like the back of my eyes, and it makes my room look cool. It almost makes my bed look like I have a Star Trek bed, and that is truly me living the dream. So if you are a geek like I am, or, you just like cool lights, perhaps try that out. The strip lights I have are mounted under my bed, so kind of think about how you have running lights on the bottoms of some cars, and it reflects off of the carpet or off of the walls around it. I have a remote control for it, but I can also control it at the wall if I need to. It just plugs into an electrical outlet, and I can click a couple of buttons on it to cycle through. So that is pretty cool in my opinion. And again, I got those for $17 online. Any online retailer probably carries them. And they're super neat. A lot of folks on Twitch who stream have them, which is why I originally bought them. And then I was like, whoa, these are dope for falling asleep with. I love them. So maybe try that out. Or just get a little dim red light for your night lights. You can also try to avoid looking at bright screens 2 to 3 hours before bed. And if you are on night shift or you use a lot of electronic devices at night, try to wear those blue blocking sunglasses or install one of those apps that'll filter that blue-green wavelength at night. The blue one is primarily the largest issue, as we have discussed earlier today, but green can also be a little problematic for you. You also want to try to expose yourself to as much bright light as possible during the day, especially natural sunlight, because that will boost your ability to sleep at night. It will improve your mood and alertness during the day. And also, if you're getting that natural light, it's going to help with your vitamin D. It really does pay dividends to get that natural light, you guys. I hope you guys have learned a lot about light today and have learned some tips that you can take into your own life just to make life happier and more fun in your pursuit of health and wellness and better sleep. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask that you please subscribe to the show, and writing a nice review always really helps us. Also, if you could please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I'd appreciate it. Thank you kindly, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.